In this video, I want to walk you through another way to validate that your SaaS solution can meet your target market's expectations before you actually build it. Now, the risk here is even if you feel like you may have found a problem we're solving for a specific buyer in a target market, you still have to build that solution to really know. And that's expensive in time, energy, money, whatever. So is there a faster, more effective way to do this without going as far as actually building the SaaS solution? Short answer is yes, and I've leveraged it not just multiple times, but I intend to again relatively soon for another SaaS product I want to build, which is going to be a helpful sales tool for a B2B service I'm considering offering to a specific market. So I'll use that as an example after I describe for you kind of the background here, and then we take a tour on the whiteboard so I map it out for you as well. Let me map it out for you on the whiteboard. So today, your target market customer has access to what I refer to as the existing solution. Now, the existing solution is how they're solving that problem today. This is what we have to be better than. But today, that existing solution, or why they're potentially motivated to solve something better, is because this is painful, expensive, right? Time consuming, whatever. That's your opportunity, and this is what we have to do better than. Now, your SaaS solution is intended to beat this, right? That's where you've come up with a better idea to solve this problem. So that's tomorrow. So tomorrow, we're talking about your SaaS, and that is whatever, better, right? Faster, maybe cheaper, whatever. This is why they're interested, and this is what you're convinced you can do when you're comparing how they solve that problem today with how you feel like you can solve that problem in a better way for them tomorrow. But again, getting from step one to step two requires you to invest that time, energy, maybe budget in order to get there. So question is there anything that can live in between here in this middle step? And the answer is yes. So I refer to this kind of as like the half step, maybe even a Frankenstein approach, whatever. But this is where I'm going to take elements of the components that are going to go into your SaaS solution, and I'm going to do different elements of potentially managing this manually. Some of it will be automated, but it will still create an experience that I can use to validate whether or not the idea I have in mind as solution design for ultimately the SaaS product can effectively solve that problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explode this SaaS out into what its components are, right? So there's going to be, there'll be a step one, there'll be a step two, there'll be a step three, whatever. Like whatever it's going to take in order to bring this to life in the form of automation or your custom code or whatever it is you want to do, part of your solution design exercise is going to be breaking this down into steps and then building it. So the idea here is if we take that and we figure out if we can get from the beginning of that workflow to the end of it without necessarily needing to turn it into a full-blown custom SaaS product, then we could still follow those steps, essentially emulating what the SaaS is going to be in the end, but it gives us an opportunity to do that now because we're going to introduce a little bit of manual control or some behind the scenes magic. It's not magic. You're going to be doing it, but you're going to be able to do it for them. And then that's going to give you an opportunity to evaluate their response to you being able to do that on their behalf. So I'm going to fill this out with the example that I'm considering. As part of the B2B service that I want to test selling, I'm looking for a way to outreach to my target market via platforms like email or LinkedIn or whatever, but I don't want to do so cold. Cold outreach, for the most part, is that templated garbage we all get from time to time, and I'm frequently seeing them where it's like, hey, name, and it's just in parentheses. They've got some kind of broken automation, not even entering my actual name correctly. That doesn't work, right? Sending templated message to masses of people, for the most part, is the worst form of trying to manage outreach. Instead, though, because cold outreach and doing so in a hyper customized way can be very time consuming, I would like to leverage tech a little bit more so that it isn't quite as time consuming. So that's essentially the problem I want to try solving. And I've already mapped together the steps of how to do this. And that's what I'm going to break down here for you to get a better understanding of. Yes, I feel like this is a problem we're solving. Yes, I feel like other people like me have this problem. In fact, I've already had a couple of interviews that indicate as such. However, I don't really want to turn this into a SaaS product just yet. What I'd rather know is A, does it work? And B, based on those results, is it something other people want to pay for? So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to skip all that. I'm going to skip ahead, and I am going to leverage different forms of automation and manual control to be able to mimic the process that would be in the SaaS product to measure the results and compare it against, again, the existing solution. Because that's really what I have to do better than. It doesn't really matter if behind the scenes I'm doing it in a somewhat manual way or semi-automated way. What matters is, can I beat the existing solution and how valuable is that to the target market? So, like I mentioned, the tool that I'm considering, what I basically need is I need targets, right? TGTs. So I need people that are who I'm trying to connect with. I need to be able to build a profile on them, right? That profile is going to give me the ability to make my outreach hyper customized and specific to them. I don't want a tool that sends a copied message from one target or one prospect to any other prospect. If I'm sending a sequence of messages to them, I want every message I send to every prospect at every step in the process to be unique. As such, I need to know more about them, their company, their background, their LinkedIn profile, whatever, right? And I can do this in an automated way, but I'm going to map out the steps here so it breaks down into the process, which ultimately becomes my SaaS product. So I've got my targets, I got my prospect, and then I need to just do the outreach. So that's step 3, right? So I've broken down beating this, today's existing solution, and what I want to turn that into in the form of a potential SaaS product into the steps for, this is basically the solution design. So this is my solution design exercise. And what I can do is I have designed out what each of those steps are in the process. I know how to do each step. I also know how to automate each step, but that's my SaaS solution, right? Instead of going right to building that, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use these steps in the process, and I'm going to use the tools that manage each of those steps, like places I could automate API integrations or whatever, to complete each step in the process, run the experiment, and then measure the results. After I've done that, I will know, am I able to do better than this, the existing solution, with what this can be in the end? And if I can get that context, basically what I have is the early form of social proof or a case study, and that I can also use to sell to other prospects in a target market. But I don't actually have to do this in order to know whether or not this can work. So that's how you do a functional test of your solution design to better understand, is it going to be able to beat the existing solution, which is what your target market is going to care about before you actually design and build it. So that's it for this video, guys. If you're looking for ways to validate your solution without wanting to just move ahead with the build, even in the day and age of AI, when that can be done faster and more cost effectively than ever, you can still skip ahead and try to validate whether or not the solution design that's going to be a key part of your SaaS product meets the expectations of your target market even faster if you introduce some manual steps or some work behind the scenes and then focus on what it really matters, right? Better understand the experiment that you ran. Can it do better than the existing solution? If so, how much better? Capturing all that additional context is going to be what you really need to know to take that context back to your target market and show them the results, or better yet, do it for them, right? And that's something I've done a lot as well too. I will sell it as a solution, but ultimately I will deliver it as more of a solution slash a service, right? Product slash a service, because I can automate some steps and I can do others manually. But again, what really matters is whether or not the results are there, right? Can you achieve the successful outcome for your target market? If so, that's great progress. And now you've got case study, social proof potentially, and you've got a better idea of how successful potentially this can be if you ultimately then turn it into a SaaS product. So you can validate all this without building the full solution. Feel free to take advantage of this. Again, if you've got any questions for me or want any help with this process, go to bootstrappersparadise.com to reach out and ask.